I've broken down these details in such a way that they'll leave you shocked. And trust me, you'll only understand the full theory if you watch till the very end. Because today, I'm about to connect Avengers Endgame to a hidden catastrophe that no one saw coming. A catastrophe that could very well explain Avengers Doomsday itself. And it all starts with one line Tony Stark said in Endgame: "If we mess with time, then time will mess with us." What if that wasn't just a warning, but a prophecy that the Avengers themselves accidentally set into motion? And here's my burning question for you. What if the heroic sacrifice of Captain America was actually the seed that doomed the multiverse? And if so, does that mean Tony Stark never really died, but instead lived on as someone else entirely? Welcome back to MovieCast. I'm Liam Harrison, and today I'm diving into one of the wildest theories I've ever pieced together. If you're here for the first time, this channel is all about uncovering hidden clues, breaking down your favorite films, and building theories so layered they'll change the way you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe forever. So grab your shield or your gauntlet, because by the time we're done, you'll see Avengers Endgame in a way you've never seen it before. Let's begin at the moment most people forget, when Steve Rogers takes the Infinity Stones to return them to their rightful places. The Avengers promised that if they borrowed the stones, they'd put them back exactly where they came from, and that would preserve the timeline. The TVA, as we saw in Loki, confirmed that their actions weren't considered variants or mistakes. Their mission was actually meant to happen. But here's the thing nobody questions deeply enough. Steve didn't just return the stones. He stayed behind. He made a choice. He chose to live his life with Peggy Carter in a past that wasn't meant to belong to him. And that choice, that single ripple, is where everything begins to fall apart. Now think about this carefully. When Steve went on that mission, he wasn't just holding a bag of shiny rocks. He was holding 6 literal anchors of reality. The Soul Stone, the Time Stone, the Space Stone, the Power Stone, the Mind Stone, and the Reality Stone. Each one of them tethered to the foundation of existence itself. To put them back is one thing. To interact with them, in the ways Steve had to, is another. Let's walk through it step by step. First stop, Vormir. Can you even imagine that scene? Steve climbing that lonely mountain only to be greeted by none other than the Red Skull. His oldest enemy, now cursed as the Stonekeeper. Did Steve hand the Soul Stone back politely, or did he drop it into that cosmic abyss? Either way, the Soul Stone doesn't operate like the others. It's transactional. It demands a soul for a soul, which means whether Steve knew it or not, just returning it may have cracked open a new bargain in the laws of fate. From there, he traveled to Asgard. He had to slip the ether back into Jane Foster's body. Not an easy task for anyone, let alone a soldier out of his time. And yet there's another piece that gets overlooked here. Remember that Thor had already warned his mother, Frigga, about his own future. She wasn't naive. She knew what was happening, and Steve might have leaned on her help. Maybe Frigga even offered guidance to Captain America, guidance that allowed him to plant the ether back without killing Jane. That's not just a casual return mission anymore. That's an intimate involvement with Asgardian destiny. And every time Steve interfered, the ripples grew. Next, New York, the Time Stone. Here Steve would have faced the Ancient One. Now we know she wasn't the type to be fooled. She knew about branches. She knew about divergences. So if Steve appeared before her with the Time Stone, you can bet she asked questions. Maybe she even glimpsed what his heart was truly set on. Not just returning the stones, but staying in the past with Peggy. Maybe that's why she didn't resist too much. She trusted him in her way. But the second Steve admitted his intentions, the Ancient One would have recognized the risk. Because if the Sorcerer Supreme's job is to guard the flow of time, then she must have seen that Steve's choice was going to bend it in dangerous ways. And here's where it gets chilling. At this point, Steve has successfully returned the stones, right? He's fulfilled his duty. The mission is over. All he has to do now is click that device and return to his present. But he doesn't. He doesn't. Because deep down, Steve Rogers is still human. He's tired of war, tired of sacrifice. For once in his life, he wants that last dance with Peggy. So he takes a step the others never expected. He rewrites his personal history. And from that point forward, everything the TVA said about the Avengers doing what they were supposed to do starts to collapse. Because while the group mission was sacred, Steve's private decision was not. And the multiverse, it noticed. But Steve, being Steve, wouldn't just march up to Peggy's house and knock on the door. No, the man had patience. He understood the battlefield better than anyone. So imagine this. Instead of instantly chasing Peggy, Steve goes back further. He chooses a pivotal moment. A battlefield where Hydra was rising, where Red Skull was making his moves. And he intervenes. He captures Red Skull before Hydra can ever spread like wildfire. He ends their empire before it can begin. And just like that, the dominoes start to fall. Because in stopping Hydra so early, Steve also prevents certain events from ever happening. The Tesseract, instead of being found and used by Howard Stark, sinks deeper into obscurity. That one stone alone shifts the destiny of multiple heroes. No Iron Man. No Captain Marvel. Entire legacies erased because Steve Rogers decided to play God with history. Now I know what you might be thinking. Isn't this an overreach? Didn't the TVA say the Avengers' actions were okay? Yes, but remember, the TVA only policed until He Who Remains allowed it. Once the sacred timeline fractured, anything Steve did in his hidden life could have slipped through without resistance. And that's exactly where the story takes its darkest turn. Because without the Tesseract inspiring Howard Stark, the brilliant inventor never creates the arc reactor prototype. And without that, there's no Iron Man. But that doesn't mean Tony Stark vanishes. In fact, his life becomes far more tragic. Because in this altered history, the Stark family still faces betrayal, only this time it happens in Latvaria, under the shadow of a man named Obadiah Stane. And what follows from that single event is the birth not of a hero, but of a villain who will shake the multiverse to its core. In this reimagined history, the Stark story doesn't unfold in the glamorous light of progress, but in the shadows of betrayal. With Hydra crippled early, Howard Stark's focus shifts entirely toward weapons technology. His brilliance doesn't get channeled into energy innovation, because the Tesseract, his spark of inspiration, is never discovered in the ocean. Instead, Howard becomes entangled in darker corners of the arms trade. And during a deal in Latvaria, his closest associate, Obadiah Stane, strikes. In the chaos, Howard and Maria Stark are killed. Their son Tony survives, but barely. His face is burned beyond recognition. He's just a boy, left disfigured and traumatized in a foreign land where no one knows or cares who he is. In that moment, Tony Stark as we know him ceases to exist. And here's the twist. Instead of being pulled back into the United States, instead of being groomed into the billionaire playboy genius, this broken boy falls under the protection of a woman who sees potential where others see only scars, Agatha Harkness. Now, Agatha, at this point, isn't the neighborly witch we met in WandaVision. She's wandering, grieving. Her own child lost to tragedy. When she discovers the boy, mangled and alone, she senses both pain and possibility. Using ancient magic, she heals him not completely, but enough to make him whole again. And when she learns his true identity, she realizes she must hide him. Because if the world knew Tony Stark had survived, he would become a target for those same forces that betrayed his family. So she casts a spell. A spell that erases him from the memory of the world, much like Doctor Strange's spell in No Way Home. To the outside world, Tony Stark never grew up. He never became Iron Man. But to Agatha, he becomes something else entirely. She renames him. She gives him a second identity. She calls him Victor. Victor Von Doom. This is where the line between science and sorcery begins to blur. Growing up in Latvaria under Agatha's care, Victor absorbs knowledge like a sponge. He isn't just an engineer like Howard or a sorcerer like Agatha, he's both. He learns to fuse science and magic in ways no one thought possible, and the people of Latvaria begin to notice. Here's a young man who builds devices to heal, who conjures miracles of energy, who solves problems their so-called leaders never could. Slowly, he rises as a beacon of hope. But hope has a cost. The local baron, a dictator ruling over Latvaria with an iron grip, becomes jealous. To him, Victor is not a savior, he's a threat. And jealousy in the hands of tyrants always ends in fire. The Baron declares Agatha a witch, branding her sorcery as evil. In a public spectacle meant to crush both her spirit and Victor's, she is sentenced to death by fire. And here's the gut-wrenching part. Victor tries to save her. Against her wishes, he unleashes spells she had forbidden him to use. He throws himself into the flames, desperate to pull her out. But he fails. The fire consumes her. His skin is seared again, his heart shattered once more. In the ashes of that failure, Victor Von Doom is truly born. He builds his first armor, a cold metal shell to hide his scars, infused with both magic and machinery. And with it, he turns the Baron's punishment back on him. The same fire that killed Agatha consumes Latvaria's tyrant. The people cheer. They see Doom as their liberator. But deep inside, Victor doesn't feel like a hero. He feels like a man who has lost everything, twice. This is the turning point. Up to now, Victor was still someone who could have been saved. He was a boy who wanted to protect, who wanted to give. But grief twists even the noblest souls. In his rage, he convinces himself that only by seizing absolute power can he prevent such losses from happening again. And so he doesn't just rule Latvaria, he rebuilds it in his image. He fuses magic with technology, creating the first wave of Doombots, machines powered by energy not from this world, but siphoned from forbidden realms. The land prospers, but its prosperity is built on unstable foundations. And that's when a familiar figure notices, the Ancient One. The Ancient One feels a disturbance. She confronts Doom, warning him that his experiments are destabilizing the natural balance. She senses that the energy he's tapping into could unravel the very fabric of their universe. But Doom, emboldened by grief and power, mocks her. He calls her a hypocrite. After all, isn't she herself guilty of drawing energy from the dark dimension to prolong her life? Their clash is inevitable. Sorcerer Supreme against Latvaria's armored sorcerer engineer. And though the Ancient One is formidable, Doom does something no one else ever dared. He doesn't just fight her, he absorbs her power, just as he once absorbed Agatha's teachings. For the first time in centuries, the Ancient One finds herself outmatched, not by brute force, but by a mind that combines logic with mysticism. Unable to destroy him without devastating consequences, she leaves him with a warning. If you ever step outside Latvaria, our next meeting will be our last. Doom's reply is chilling in its certainty. Indeed, it will be our last. Meanwhile, in the broader world, Steve Rogers is living a quieter life. His intervention created a strange peace. With Hydra dismantled early, with Doom locked away in Latvaria, governments stabilize. Wars fade. Conflicts that once birthed heroes never come to pass. It's almost idyllic, almost too good to be true. But this peace isn't natural. It's the product of Steve's interference. And when Peggy Carter eventually passes away, Steve feels the pull of his original timeline. Old and weary, he returns with his shield, handing the mantle to Sam Wilson. To everyone else, It looks like a peaceful ending to a noble life. But in truth, the moment Steve leaves that altered reality, something snaps. The delicate balance begins to collapse. Doom, who has spent years tethering his world together with stolen energy, feels it first. He realizes that the true anomaly wasn't the stones or Hydra or even himself. It was Steve Rogers, a man who didn't belong, who brought peace to a world that should have birthed chaos. And when that man departs, the incursions begin. This is where Doom's genius turns into obsession. He refuses to accept that the multiverse itself is broken because of someone else's choices. He tells himself he can fix it. He builds machines, he crafts spells, he sends Doombots into other realms to harvest energy. But no matter what he does, the incursions keep happening. Timelines collapse, universes burn, and slowly, Doom arrives at a terrifying conclusion that the multiverse isn't a garden to be nurtured, but a cancer to be replaced. If collapse is inevitable, then the only way forward is to control the collapse, to trigger it on his own terms, and from its ashes, build a new reality where he reigns supreme. It's not that Doom seeks destruction for its own sake. He seeks order, permanence, a world where no fire can ever take away what he loves again. But in trying to play God, he sets himself on the path of becoming the very monster he once swore to fight. Doom's obsession with saving his reality evolves into something far greater than even he anticipated. At first, he tries to focus on his own world, using his Doombots to siphon energy from other realms. These machines, half metal and half magic, act as anchors, patching the cracks left by Steve's departure. But here's the problem. Every time one fracture is sealed, another appears elsewhere. It's like playing whack-a-mole with existence itself. Doom begins to notice a strange pattern. No matter what he does, the source of instability always traces back to one thing: Steve Rogers. Not the Captain America of Doom's timeline, but the Steve who came from another world, who lived decades of borrowed time with Peggy before finally returning home. Doom realizes something devastating. Steve wasn't just a visitor. He was an infection in the timeline. His presence created peace where there should have been conflict. And when he left, that peace collapsed, sending shockwaves through the multiverse. For Doom, this isn't just a theory. It's proof that destiny itself was rewritten, and he's living in the fallout. Armed with this revelation, Doom turns his attention to the concept of dream walking, the forbidden practice of projecting oneself into variants across the multiverse. Using fragments of the Darkhold and his own inventions, he sends his consciousness spiraling into alternate worlds. In one, he sees Howard Stark alive and well, never betrayed, never killed in Latvaria. In another, Tony grows into Iron Man, the genius hero who saves New York from an alien invasion instead of hiding in armor and sorcery. Each reality shows him a different possibility, a different outcome. And yet one thing remains constant: the incursions. No matter the timeline, they happen. Sometimes sooner, sometimes later, but always inevitable. This realization drives Doom deeper into madness. He tells himself that if every branch is doomed to collapse, then survival depends not on preserving the multiverse, but on becoming its architect. Only he, with his fusion of magic and science, can shape the rebirth. But the multiverse has a way of fighting back. In one dream walk, Doom crosses paths with a sorcerer he didn't expect, Dr. Strange. Not the Strange of his own altered world, but a variant from another branch. Strange, who has seen the chaos of the Darkhold and knows the dangers of meddling too deeply, recognizes Doom for what he is becoming. They clash across the dreamscape, their battle echoing through shattered realities. Doom accuses Strange of hypocrisy, claiming he too bends the rules to protect what he loves. Strange counters by warning Doom that his arrogance will doom not just one world, but all worlds. And though neither can fully defeat the other, Doom emerges from the encounter more determined than ever. To him, Strange's warning isn't a deterrent, it's validation. If even the Sorcerer Supreme fears what Doom might accomplish, then Doom must be on the right path. Back in his own reality, Doom doubles down. He scours every scrap of knowledge he can find, from ancient texts buried beneath Kamar Taj to lost scrolls hidden in the ruins of Sokovia. He learns of the incursion cycle, universes colliding, annihilating one another until only fragments remain. And here's the twist. Doom discovers that incursions aren't random. They're drawn to anomalies, to points where the natural order has been disrupted. And who is the greatest anomaly of all? Steve Rogers. Not because he fought Hydra, not because he lived with Peggy, but because he came from a different branch and imposed his will on a world that wasn't his. Doom concludes that if Rogers hadn't interfered, this version of reality would never have fractured. That makes Steve both the cause and the key, the ultimate paradox. At this point, Doom's resentment becomes personal. He no longer views Steve as just a variable in a cosmic equation. He sees him as the thief who stole his destiny. In Doom's mind, Steve's selfish decision to live his dream with Peggy erased the possibility of Tony Stark becoming a hero. It robbed Doom of his chance to be more than a monster. If Steve had stayed in his lane, Victor might have grown up loved, protected, guided into greatness. Instead, he was abandoned, burned, twisted into a ruler who never asked for his crown. This is where Doom's narrative shifts from a tragic backstory into a vendetta. He vows that if he can't undo Steve's choice, then he'll reshape the multiverse itself so no man, no god, no Avenger can ever alter destiny again. But Doom isn't reckless. He knows striking directly at Steve would unravel him as well. Because in this altered world, Victor only exists because Steve chose to stay. To erase Steve would be to erase himself. So Doom turns his genius toward a different solution: control. He builds devices capable of harnessing the residual energy of incursions, attempting to bend those collapses to his will. He theorizes that if he can capture enough of this destructive power, he can ignite what he calls the last incursion, a controlled collapse of all timelines, after which he alone will decide what survives. His dream isn't annihilation for its own sake. It's rebirth, a universe forged by his design, where no child suffers as he did, where no tyrant burns witches, where no Steve Rogers rewrites destiny. But beneath that noble veneer lies his darker truth. In that new reality, Doom will be worshipped, not questioned. And yet, even Doom can't escape doubt. During his dream walks, he begins to witness fragments of futures not yet written. He sees universes where heroes still rise, where hope flourishes even in chaos. He sees Tony Stark sacrificing himself for the greater good. He sees Wanda Maximoff torn between love and destruction. He sees Kang the Conqueror looming like a shadow over everything. Each vision leaves Doom conflicted. Is he truly the savior he believes himself to be, or just another tyrant grasping at control? The irony is almost poetic. In trying to correct the fracture Steve caused, Doom risks becoming the very embodiment of the multiverse's corruption. But in his mind, the choice has already been made. He cannot turn back. The collapse is coming, and when it does, only one man will be prepared to stand atop the ashes. And so Doom begins the final stage of his plan. He stops merely reacting to incursions and starts initiating them. Targeted, calculated, deliberate. He chooses universes that threaten his own stability, wiping them away with cold precision. To the outside observer, it looks like cruelty. To Doom, it's mercy. Better to prune a world than let it rot and drag others down with it. But every act of destruction feeds the myth of Doom, the legend of a man who plays God, Across the multiverse, whispers spread of a ruler cloaked in green and iron, wielding both sorcery and science, bending reality itself. Some fear him, some worship him, but all know his name, Dr. Doom. The legend of Doom doesn't stay confined to Latvaria for long. His incursions send ripples through the fabric of reality, drawing attention from forces far beyond his world. Sorcerers across dimensions whisper of a tyrant harvesting destruction itself. Cosmic entities sense the imbalance, and even king variants begin to take notice. Doom's campaign isn't just a defense mechanism anymore, it's an outright declaration of dominance over the multiverse. Every universe he targets, every Earth he topples adds to his arsenal. And in the process, Doom starts to uncover a chilling truth. Some timelines contain fragments of knowledge the others don't. By piecing them together, Doom begins to map the architecture of the multiverse itself, something even the TVA barely understood. For him, the puzzle isn't random chaos anymore. It's a machine, flawed but decipherable. And if he can decode its design, he can rebuild it. But Doom's rise doesn't go unchallenged. The Sorcerers Supreme of several branches form a coalition, recognizing that no one timeline can survive his ambitions. They send emissaries, warriors, even variants of Strange and Wong to confront him. The battles that follow aren't just magical duels, they're cataclysms that shake entire continents. Doom doesn't merely fight them off, he learns from them. Every spell cast against him becomes a new formula in his arsenal. Every weapon wielded against him becomes a blueprint for his Doom bots. What makes him so terrifying isn't just his power, but his adaptability. He turns resistance into resource. And after every confrontation, he emerges stronger, colder, more convinced of his destiny. To Doom, opposition isn't a threat. It's proof that the multiverse fears the change he's about to bring. Meanwhile, Doom's vendetta against Steve Rogers festers in the background. Even though Steve has long since returned to his own timeline, his ghost haunts Doom's every calculation. Doom convinces himself that Rogers was the original sin, the ripple that started it all. And so Doom begins experimenting with ways to reach across branches, not just dream walking, but dragging physical matter through. He's no longer content to observe variants, he wants to confront them. In one experiment, he pulls through a fragment of a shield, cracked and scarred, belonging to a Steve Rogers who died in battle. In another, he glimpses universes where Rogers never became Captain America at all. Each revelation hardens his resolve. If anomalies like Steve can exist and rewrite fate, then Doom's crusade isn't just justified, it's necessary. He frames it as cosmic justice. One man rewrote destiny for love, so another must rewrite it for survival. But the more Doom tampers, the more the multiverse begins to convulse. Incursions accelerate, timelines grind against each other, entire branches collapse faster than he can catalog them. In the chaos, he stumbles upon something unexpected. Fragments of universes that resist erasure, fragments tethered by infinity stones. Unlike the one Steve returned, these are from alternate realities where the stones weren't destroyed. Doom realizes they act like anchors, stabilizing their timelines against collapse. To him, this isn't coincidence, it's confirmation. If he can gather these variants of the stones, he might wield enough power to not only control the collapse, but to reshape reality itself. It's a temptation even Doom can't resist. Thus begins his next campaign, not just to survive incursions, but to hunt the multiverse's most powerful relics one by one. This hunt leads Doom into direct conflict with heroes from other worlds. On one Earth, he faces a variant of Thor who never lost Mjolnir, a god who fights with the fury of storms. Doom defeats him by binding the lightning to his armor, absorbing the storm itself. On another, He battles a Carol Danvers who never abandoned her world, a Captain Marvel variant radiating cosmic power. Their clash spans galaxies, but Doom's mixture of sorcery and technology tips the scale. He doesn't just overpower her, he imprisons her energy inside a device, a cruel echo of the arc reactor Tony once carried in another life. Every victory adds to his arsenal, but every act of conquest leaves another universe in ruins. Doom tells himself it's necessary, but deep inside he knows he's becoming the very embodiment of the destruction he claims to prevent. At the same time, whispers of Doom's campaign reach the surviving Avengers across other timelines. Some of them piece together fragments of what's happening, that a tyrant born from Tony Stark's shadow is waging war on the multiverse itself. Imagine the emotional weight of that revelation. Variants of Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, and even Tony himself begin to confront the possibility that one of their own has become the greatest villain of all. For Steve variants, the guilt is crushing. Was it really their fault? Was the decision of one man to live a quiet life enough to spark universal collapse? For Tony variants, the horror cuts even deeper. Doom is in some twisted sense them. A Tony who never had the chance to atone, never had the chance to be a hero, now rewriting the cosmos in iron and fire. It's not just a fight for survival anymore. It's a fight for their very legacy. As Doom's legend spreads, so does his paranoia. He begins to sense that heroes across branches are preparing to resist him, maybe even unite against him. For all his arrogance, he isn't blind to the risk, so he accelerates his timetable. He pushes the multiverse toward its breaking point, orchestrating collisions not randomly, but strategically, pruning the branches that could birth the strongest opposition. And yet, the more he pushes, the more he realizes he's running out of time. The incursions are accelerating beyond his control. He can't just patch the machine anymore, he has to rebuild it now, or everything will be lost. This is the stage where Doom's crusade stops being theoretical. He's no longer preparing for the last incursion. He's summoning it. And in doing so, he sets the stage for the greatest catastrophe the multiverse has ever seen. The multiverse groans under the weight of Doom's ambition. By this stage, every branch is fraying, every reality feels like it's seconds from unraveling. And in the heart of Latvaria, Doom stands within his citadel, surrounded by towers of technology humming with stolen cosmic energy. He has harvested fragments of Infinity Stones from shattered universes, fused them into his armor, and built a machine capable of triggering what he calls the final incursion. To him, this isn't madness, it's destiny. He believes the multiverse is sick, corrupted by anomalies, plagued by accidents of love and sacrifice, and that only by collapsing everything can a new order emerge. But what makes this moment so powerful is the contradiction. Doom sees himself as savior, yet his empire is built on ashes. His dream is a world without loss, yet he has become the embodiment of loss itself. As Doom prepares to ignite his machine, resistance gathers. From across collapsing branches, heroes converge. Not a single team, but countless variations of the Avengers, each pulled into the storm of incursions. Imagine Steve Rogers stepping onto the battlefield alongside other versions of himself, each one scarred by different choices. Imagine Tony Stark's facing the horror of seeing what they could have become if they'd been stripped of hope. Natasha, Thor, Wanda, Strange, countless faces, countless versions of legacy. They don't arrive united by command or strategy. They arrive bound by one truth. If Doom succeeds, there won't be a multiverse left to fight for. This is the war of survival, the final battle to preserve possibility itself. And in the middle of this confrontation lies the cruel irony. Doom doesn't want to kill them. In his mind, they are the proof of what he's fighting for. But because they resist, because they cling to the chaos of choice, he sees no alternative. His Doombots flood the field, armored legions powered by the energy of dead universes. The skies burn with sorcery and machinery, a fusion of cosmic and arcane unlike anything the multiverse has ever seen. Each hero throws themselves into the fray, but for every victory, Doom adapts. Every shield strike, every spell, every blast becomes data absorbed into his armor, turned against them. It's not just a battle of fists, it's a battle of wills. Can the idea of freedom withstand the sheer weight of one man's obsession with control? And then in the chaos comes the most shocking confrontation of all. Doom stands face to face with Steve Rogers. Not the old man who returned to his timeline, but a variant dragged into the collapse, still carrying the guilt of choices made and lives altered. Doom doesn't attack immediately. Instead, he speaks. He tells Steve that everything, the incursions, the deaths, the collapse, began with him. That his selfish choice to stay with Peggy, to rewrite destiny for love, created the fracture that doomed them all. Steve, battle-worn and weary, doesn't deny it. He admits that maybe his choice was selfish. Maybe it was wrong. But he refuses to believe that one mistake justifies burning the multiverse to the ground. This exchange is more than dialogue. It's the essence of the theory. Doom sees Steve as the anomaly that broke everything, while Steve sees Doom as the consequence of letting anger rewrite purpose. The fight that follows is as symbolic as it is brutal. Doom, armored in a fusion of stark genius and sorcery, wielding fragments of stones, embodies power twisted by grief. Steve's shield in hand embodies resilience born of sacrifice. Every clash of metal and magic is a clash of ideologies. Doom shouts that destiny must be controlled, that chaos must be purged. Steve counters with the belief that freedom, even with its risks, is what makes existence worth preserving. The outcome isn't determined by who's stronger. Doom clearly has the advantage, but by who inspires those around them. Watching Steve stand against impossible odds, other heroes rally. They begin to see that even if Doom's theory is correct, his solution strips the multiverse of its very soul. But here's the twist that seals the climax. Just as Doom is about to deliver the final blow, his machine, designed to harness the collapse, begins to overload. The very incursion energy he sought to control turns volatile, threatening to consume not just the battlefield, but reality itself. Doom faces a choice eerily similar to Tony's in Endgame: sacrifice himself to stop the collapse, or cling to his dream and risk annihilating everything. For the briefest moment, the man inside the armor resurfaces. The boy Victor who lost his parents, who lost Agatha, who never got to be Tony Stark. That sliver of humanity is enough. Doom diverts the energy inward, containing the blast within his armor. The explosion rips through Latvaria, sealing the final incursion and stabilizing the multiverse, but at the cost of Doom himself, or so it seems. The heroes stand in the aftermath, battered but alive. The multiverse doesn't collapse. Instead, it shudders, scarred but stable, like a patient who just barely survived surgery. Steve Rogers lowers his shield, burdened by the knowledge that his decision all those years ago set the dominoes in motion. But even here, amidst ruin, there's hope. The theory suggests that Doom isn't truly gone. His essence, infused with the energy of the stones and the incursions, may still linger, waiting for the right moment to rise again. And that sets the stage for what could become Marvel's most terrifying villain. Not Kang, not Thanos, but Doom. A Doom who knows the multiverse's secrets, who has seen its fragility, who understands that one man's choice can alter destiny itself. So what does it all mean? At its heart, this theory reframes the multiverse saga as a story not just about Kang or alternate branches, but about consequences. about how one decision made with the purest of intentions can ripple into catastrophe. Steve Rogers wasn't evil for staying with Peggy, but in doing so, he planted the seed of a reality where Tony Stark never became Iron Man, where Victor Von Doom was born instead. And Doom, in trying to save his broken world, nearly broke the multiverse. It's a cycle of cause and effect, love and loss, heroism and villainy. And it shows that the line between savior and destroyer is thinner than we ever imagined. And that brings me to you. What do you think of this theory? Do you see the irony the same way I do? That Steve's most human choice created Marvel's most inhuman villain? Does it make Avengers Endgame feel less like an ending and more like the beginning of something far darker? And if Doom really is the shadow born of Steve's ripple, does that make him the true heart of the multiverse saga? Let me know in the comments, because this is one of those theories that only gets stronger the more minds dig into it. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button, share this video with your fellow fans, and of course subscribe to MovieCast for more theories that peel back the layers of your favorite films. And if you want to go the extra mile in supporting the channel, consider giving us a super thanks of $20. It helps us keep building bigger, crazier theories just like this one. Thanks for watching. I'm Liam Harrison, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.